trying to portray anything, right? And display anything. Fuck it. What we were just speaking to before is, okay, people may not even recognize that when you're, say, participating in social media, you're scrolling through Instagram or Facebook, and you're unconsciously or consciously getting to this point where you're absorbing all these little frames and fragments of perspective from maybe another person, from another person's interpretation of another person. And we're continuing to absorb these at this sort of accelerated rate. Maybe we're at a point where we're on autopilot. We are so fixated on this next dopamine hit that we don't really consciously register all the things that we're absorbing. Be it certain ads that are being thrown at us, these sort of business schemes, or maybe we're at this point where, people who are expressing toxicity, or people that are expressing turmoil or suffering, or simply certain philosophies or perspectives that maybe don't align with ours. There's all these different dimensions of social media that I feel that we're continuously bombarded with. And again, even if we're not consciously registering or participating within these things, this is what we're absorbing. And more so on an unconscious level, but also a conscious level. We're beginning to make these comparisons, make these sort of understandings, and process these things. And really, it's creating a lot of, I'd say, divide within how we really, as humans, are meant to experience in a very visceral way. Simply we're continuing to register all these different ways and fragments and fractured perspectives that is really fundamentally, it's fundamentally not how we, again, as humans, experience real life. When we're at a point where, this is what I remember talking about a while back and really thinking, when we participate within certain social media paradigms, or even particular things with dating apps, or any sort of thing where we are introducing this sort of accelerated process of filtering out people, information, and experience, we are fundamentally robbing ourselves, and we're programming our mind in a way that is counterintuitive to how we as beings really experience people and life. We get to this point where here we are in the real world, experiencing people, eye contact, micro expressions, all these priceless components that make us human, all these little elements that make us so human, the sense that we sensate, the sensations that we see, that really we associate with every little piece of this experience that we see in the real world. Even when we take a step back, we look back how life has been, how life has evolved through hundreds and hundreds of years, the way that in a time before technology, before this hyper-accelerated stimulus that we're constantly putting so much emphasis on, life was different. The way we interact with people was different. The way that we may not see people for months at a time, but this was okay. The way that we didn't have to continuously put this emphasis on continuously being accessible to each other at a moment's notice. When we were in this instance where we live our lives, we're in this greater unraveling, this fabric of the universe that is going off and rippling off in so many different ways. This is where our attention lies. Maybe we'll meet someone in the moment, maybe we'll meet someone tomorrow, maybe we will continue to unravel on our path and continue to experience all these different things in the visceral, but it was never something that we had to create this constant, I'd say, interjection or this defibrillation where we are removing ourselves from this natural rhythm that we are within. Now, don't get me wrong, now naturally, of course, there are definitely some, I'd say, powerful benefits of having these sort of realms, these means to connect with one another, these means to continue to be able to be in contact with one another, especially over, overseas, or over just these periods and lengths of distance, right? But in truth, as I feel with many domains of technology, this core intention, this root intention that once was the reason why these systems were put in place, the reason why these dimensions of technology were invented in the first place, this has been lost. This has been long lost in a sea of so much distortion. You know, there's been so much that has deviated this original core intention for why these systems and technologies were put in place in the first place, right? And maybe sometimes this is where, when we remove ourselves from technology, remove ourselves from social media, we give ourselves the ability to recognize what this original intention for why these core systems or why these technologies were invented in the first place, and come back to this, right?